The agenda that we're going to spend some time in the afternoon session. We have a number of subjects to cover in the afternoon session, but part of the time we will be spending on issues that have to do with the administering of the immigration law, with the ways in which the immigration system is working, and most particularly, again, in terms of the significance of this year, the importance of 2008 to the issues of the performance of the immigration system, is the fact that our immigration system now, by and large, resides within the new entity, the Department of Homeland Security, which was created in 2003. And so we are at the 5th year marker of the experience with that new entity and with the immigration functions taking place within that context. Now, many of you in this audience will know that it was, for many years, a long-held view and a dream that the immigration benefits part of the immigration portfolio be freed up from the enforcement part so that it could truly serve its customers and so that there could really be a focus on this incredibly important aspect of the immigration business of the country, which is the adjudication of benefits and the conferring of immigration services. So what we have today is the opportunity to get a progress report on how that really is going. We're 5 years in. We have a new entity called Citizenship and Immigration Services in the Department of Homeland Security, whose sole mission is to be dedicated to the issues of providing benefits. And I'm very pleased in that connection to be able to introduce to you and to this community Jonathan Scharfen, who is newly in the position of acting director of CIS. Now, he's in this position for about a month, although not absolutely new to the brief because, of course, he had been the deputy director for the prior 2 years. But nonetheless, he's now in charge, and he brings to CIS a very interesting background, a career military background in the Marine Corps, I believe, with interesting assignments on the legal side by and large, but also with Hill experience and with some experience in the White House and from the national security standpoint. So this is a well-rounded and fascinating set of skills to bring to what we all know is a hugely challenging, formidable task. This session we decided to devote entirely to the opportunity for Mr. Scharfen to speak to you and to be introduced to you because he knows that this audience represents major elements of the immigration stakeholder community in not only Washington but in the country, and it's a community to which he wants to be responsive through his work at CIS and with which he wants to engage. So this is kind of a maiden voyage. I'm sure we'll be seeing more of him, and I'm now happy to turn over this podium to him. He's going to give some opening remarks, and then we'll have an opportunity for Q&A. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, Doris. I appreciate that introduction, and I'm thankful my mother wrote it for you. But in all seriousness, I wanted to thank MPI, both Dimitri and Doris. They were kind enough to come over and meet with me after with Emilio as he was leaving, the former director, and me as I was coming on. And it was a very worthwhile conversation. And that's when Doris made the invitation, which was very kind, to come here and speak with you all today. I also want to thank Georgetown Law School, both Dean Alanikoff and Susan Martin for having me, and then also from Clinic, Don Kerwin for having me, because I understand that you're also a sponsor of this event. What I'd like to do today is not talk too long, maybe 10 to 15 minutes, to tell you a little bit about what our challenges are and what we plan on doing or trying to accomplish with the remaining time in this administration. And then after that, take any sort of questions that you have. So first of all, Challenges. Since USCIS's inception, unfortunately, we've been bedeviled by one sort of backlog or another. Some of them were as large as 3.8 million backlog at one point in 2004. And so the reality of the capacity and the ability of the agency to be able to process large numbers of applications has always been a challenge. What I'd like to do now is just talk about two backlogs that we're currently working on that I think are probably, I know has been spoken about earlier today, and ones that you have given some thought to. And I'd be interested in hearing any thoughts or questions you have at the end of this talk. But let's first take the naturalization backlog. It's one that's gotten coverage in the New York Times and the editorial pages. It's drawn some significant political heat and unhappiness. We have, in the fiscal year 2007, we received 1.4 million naturalization applications. To put that in context, we normally receive about 750,000 applications for naturalization a year. That's what we received, for instance, in fiscal year 2006. But it wasn't just that we received 1.4 million applications in FY07. It's the way we received them. If I were to have brought in one chart here, and it's by month, it would have been showing that year's applications for fiscal year 07 going along like this with a slight rise that was in keeping with past application surges. And then in the month of July, we got hit with 460 million applications in 1 month. That's a 370% increase in 1 month. What are the consequences of that? Because we're a paper-based system, that means an application, as you all know, comes in an envelope. It's a piece of paper, and in that is a check. And when you get 460 million of those, I can tell you from experience, you fill up 4 seagoing crates with applications. And it represented close to well over $400 million were in those applications waiting to be processed. It took us to process those paper applications from July until December, January time frame. We had to called in accounting firms to make sure we were counting them correctly, to make sure we were processing them correctly, and to make sure we were handling the money correctly. But it was a very manpower-intensive, person-power-intensive operation. And that's the system that we work with now. And I'll talk about that here in the end of what we'd like to do. But what are we doing with that surge? First of all, I think earlier today there was some discussion about should we have done a better job at anticipating and preparing for that surge. I'll put that aside, and if you'd like to talk to me a little bit about that during the Q's and A's, I'd be happy to talk about it. But we see that the cause of that surge there were a number of them. First of all, the comprehensive immigration reform debate increased, I think, the applications. There was by the organization's own accounts, there was an unprecedented effort to get a citizenship drive going, to get applications put in. And then, of course, we had a large fee increase that became effective at the end of that month. It was an increase depending on how you measure it, between 66 and 88% increase in naturalization applications costs, the fees. So, for instance, for a naturalization application, it went from about $430 per application to over $600. That certainly increased those applications. But anyway, what are we doing about that? First of all, we're hiring. We're hiring over 3,000 new employees. We knew when we did the fee analysis that we were short, even without a surge, over 1,500 employees, that we would not be able to keep up with just normal projected workload without hiring 1,500 new people. And then on top of that, for the surge, we're hiring another basically 1,500. So we're hiring people. All of them will be on board by the end of the year. Will be on board and trained. We've more than tripled our overtime, and we're paying for it up front in the year. And so we'll pay as much overtime as that will bear. and we're having detailees assigned to those offices that need the most help. What's that get us? Where last year we processed about 750,000 naturalization applications, this year we'll process 1,015,000. That's a 37% increase. Originally we thought that there would be waits between 16 and 18 months for naturalization applications. Obviously unacceptable by any measure. We now have driven that down to 13 to 14 months. What's that mean? But 14 months is 14 months mark is that July 2007 when we got that last surge in. Over half our offices will be done with that, but our larger offices especially will still be working with those July applications. But 90% of the applications that were made in July of 2007 will be finished, will be processed. We hope to do better than that, however, but we do believe that that is an accomplishment. It's because of the hard work of the employees of CIS, and although we are happy that we're on that course, we're going to work hard to improve that. What does that mean, though, in terms of a backlog? I think that's a fair question. If you measure a backlog, and I think you should, we projected and anticipated that we would be processing naturalization applications in 5 months. That means that roughly 300,000 naturalization applications will be pending for longer than 5 months. So we will not have made a good on a promise that we made to the public. And that's one that we will continue to work hard to improve on. The other backlog that has gotten, rightfully so, a lot of attention is the FBI name check backlog. That backlog began back in 2002 for any various number of reasons, many of them growing out of 9/11. But without going through the history of that, the point is that we have been carrying from year to year a backlog of about 130,000 FBI name check that were not completed. And how did we define that backlog? Is if you've been waiting for an FBI name check to clear for more than 6 months, we considered that a backlog. But when you start looking at the numbers, it's worse than that, because we had, as bad as it sounds, we had FBI name checks that were waiting for over 5 and over 4 years old. The consequences of that were many, and that's one of the things I'd like to talk about here, is that when you take a look at CIS and you look at national security post 9/11, is that having good, efficient immigration processing helps national security. If you don't, and the converse of that is true. If you don't have good processes, and if you aren't efficient, and if you have backlogs, no matter what the backlog is, I would argue, you're harming national security. And so good services that's provided to our applicants is always going to, in my view, improve national security. When you take a look at the consequences of the FBI backlog, there were many, and none of them were good. First of all, it meant that people were here in the United States, in many instances, waiting to have an FBI name check clear. So we did not know, in essence, whether that person was a threat or not. Clearly, some number of them we would have denied the benefit had we done the FBI name check. So that was number one. It hurt national security in that fashion. Also, I believe that the costs to us in the courts is going to be long-lasting, unfortunately. I believe that we lost the confidence in some of our credibility before federal judges because they saw these cases come in and they saw how long the name check had been pending. And furthermore, judges were getting irate. I'll share a personal story with you. My father went to a Notre Dame football game to watch his school play my school. This was I went to Notre Dame Law School, and he said it was really a great experience. And he had a nice group of friends there, one of whom was an appellate court judge. And everything was going well until he made the mistake of telling the judge that his son, thought he was going to brag about his son, who did better than he ever would have expected, I think. And he said, well, my son's in the immigration service. And he goes, oh. The judge says, oh, and what's his position? What does he do? And he says, well, My father proudly says he's the deputy director. That's like the chief operating officer. And all hell broke loose. He said, literally, he said, he pointed at him. He said, you tell your son that he's got to fix this FBI backlog. It's jamming my courts. At some point, almost 80% of his cases were immigration related, the largest amount of those being these FBI name checks. And he said, well, anyway, I told my father after that, Dad, don't tell anyone I'm in immigration. It does you no good. In all seriousness, that's a serious problem. We were clogging up the courts with cases that should not have been there, and we were losing credibility with not just the courts, but with the public at large, and with the applicant public. And it also affected, I think, harmfully undermined our efforts at assimilation, because some people who were waiting and caught up in this FBI name check felt that they were being targeted or profiled, and so it undermined our assimilation efforts, which I also think has a national security component to it as well. Finally, it was resources. Dia Carpenter here, she's our Deputy Chief Counsel, and her time was largely being pulled away for these lawsuits. For instance, last year we were sued approximately 6,000 times. About 5,000 of those cases were mandamus cases, and we estimate about 4,800 of those cases involved an FBI name check in some sort or fashion. As you can imagine, the Justice Department was anxious for us to fix this, as were Dia and our own lawyers. At any rate, what have we done for that? Clearly that was unacceptable, and we needed to do something. And I think that it may have been late in coming, and I'll take responsibility for that in large part. But we now have a partnership, we being CIS and the FBI, and we have a work plan. We've used both our money, the fee money, the different fees that we get, and plus the Congress stepped up and used appropriated funds. And so we're spending about $35 million on a work plan to drive down the FBI backlog. We also have improved our business processes on that and what we were looking for. I think we're spending our money smarter, and we're looking at, I think, the things that are of most concern. But where do we stand today? If you would indulge me, I'll just run through some numbers here to give you a sense of it, but it is on our website. We have cleared all cases that are we've cleared all cases that are over 4 years old this month. I think I was just told before we came here, I think we have a couple hundred left. There used to be 16,000 that were older than 3 years old, or 25,000, and we're now down to a couple hundred. So we will make our mark in our business plan. Anything over 3 years old will be cleared off by this month. By July of this year, anything older than 2 years will be cleared. By November, anything over 1 year will be cleared. By February of 2009, so when the transition occurs, anything that's over 6 months will have cleared by February. Then in May of next year, 2009, a year from now, we will have cleared anything that's over 3 months old. And then by June 2009, we'll be down to all cases being cleared within 30 days. Now, when I say all cases, I should be more specific. By June of next year, we'll be done, 98% of the cases will be done in 30 days. 100% of the cases, so the remaining 2%, will be done within 90 days. And I'm confident that work plan will be met, because we're on target right now. We've met 2 dates already with this FBI name check plan. So those are our challenges. Those were our short-term answers or efforts to address those challenges. What about in the future? In the future, because of the fee increase, and we realized that we have a responsibility to spend that money wisely. That was a large increase in the fees. And what are we going to do with that fee increase? There has been efforts, I'm told, for some time to transform our agency and move from basically a paper-based system. If you would, just picture those large seagoing crates, 4 of them, that we had to wade through. And also, Doris worked on something with our old paper-based, and that was the National Records Center. And it was to centralize all of our paper records there. But they're in a large cave in Missouri, and you walk into these limestone caves, and it's really something remarkable. And you walk in there, and it's like out of remember the Raiders of the Lost Ark at the end, and you look down, and you have all those boxes. Well, Doris created something like that in Missouri. But it was a good thing. And we consolidated all of our records. But, I mean, we're decades behind on that, and we can't run a modern immigration service like that. We're the greatest immigration, obviously, nation in the history of man. We should have the best and most modern immigration service in the history. And the only way we're going to do that is to make capital investments. In the past, people have wanted to transform the agency. Everyone knows what to do. It's not rocket science. Even a Marine can figure it out. We need to go from paper-based to electronic-based. We need to go from person-based. That means you touch the immigration system, as you all know, many times. So I come in as a EB visa applicant, come in, and then I adjust, and then I apply for naturalization at some point. Well, you can't just put Jock Scharfen in the system and come up with everything. It's all these different forms, and it's a hodgepodge, and you really have to be, and I've sat down many times and watched it, but I would be incompetent in working that system. You need to be an immigration professional to do that. But it shouldn't be that way. It should be a person-centric. You pull it up and all your history comes up. It should all be electronic. We shouldn't be sending people to go back and get fingerprinted multiple times. All those things require us to invest in new computer systems and new business systems. And we've got now, for the first time ever, the money to make that sort of investment. And CIS this August will let, I think, the most important contract, one of the most important contracts in America. And that is the contract to have a transformation system for CIS to do just that, to go from a paper-based system to electronic, and with all of what that means. What's our obligation is one. I think we have a very good contract selection team to go through and look at the bids and hopefully come up with a good contract. But I really think the art and where we'll be successful or fail in this effort is with our transformation program office. It's 80 people, 40 full-time employees, 40 contractors, and we're getting, between now and August, we're getting a number of outside entities to come in and take a look at that and see if we're organized to be able to manage this contract successfully. And if you have ideas about that, I'd like to hear them. And we're going to get a variety of people to come in to make sure that we're organized well so that when we hand that off to the next administration, they're organized to successfully manage that contract to transform our agency. But just 2 points that I'd like to say. Our transformation isn't just related to programs and processes. It's also our people. Last year we spent less than $10 million on training and education. Going forward, we are committed to investing in the employees at CIS. As I said, we're about 17,000 now. We're growing to probably over 19,000, and that's both full-time and contractors. But as to our full-time employees, we're looking to increase our investment to almost $50 million. What's that mean? That means that we're going to have more training from the very start. From the induction training, the basic training has gone from 6 to 9 weeks. It has a practicum involved in that. We've moved out of the old FLETC into more modern settings to do the training. We're looking to give our midterm people educational opportunities. We're going to have tuition assistance. We're going to pay for undergraduate schools, for graduate schools. We're going to pay for symposiums. Here at Georgetown Law School, Molly Groom has just got her master's in laws here, in, I think, national security laws. We're looking to get our people trained in immigration law as well, and we look to expand those programs and make a strategic long-term commitment to our employees. Our goal is to have the best trained, best educated employees in the federal government, and we now have the funds, and I hope by the end of this summer, a pretty good plan, long-term plan, to accomplish that. The other thing is having been a Marine, I'm used to being in pretty Spartan facilities. I have worked out of Quonset huts. I've slept in Quonset huts from World War II. I think I know what a Spartan facility is. However, I was never so shocked and disappointed when I went by and looked at some of our district offices for CIS. It was unacceptable, and I really give Emilio Gonzalez credit for coming up with a facilities modernization plan that we'll see in the next 2 years, 36 new facilities come online. Emilio, I thought, did a good job with coming up with the idea that we will have a brand facility that was designed, by the way, it's a handsome building, that was designed by an immigrant, as it should be. And that we are now looking to have those facilities be more user-friendly through a zip code analysis, where we break down the old idea of a mega facility in a city. We're having more dispersed throughout the area. And to give you an example of that, we just opened one in Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina. It used to be people had to drive over 7.5 hours to get immigration services. Unacceptable. This is more user-friendly. With that, I'm sorry it took longer than I thought, Doris, but we'll take any questions that you have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very, very much. We're going to have a few moments now for questions, and but before we do that, I must associate myself with one thing that you said, which is when you're in a social situation, particularly flying on an airplane, don't ever tell anybody you work in immigration. Okay, hands from the audience. Here in the middle. Who's got the mics this time?
Hi, thank you. I'm Jason Zub. I'm a private practitioner. My question is something that I think will be helpful, very helpful to private practitioners, to immigrants in general, and may actually help with reducing the number of mandamus cases, is communication with CIS. And something that's worked very well, in my opinion, is the InfoPass system, where before you'd have these very long lines, people waiting overnight to get into the offices, and now you go, basically make an appointment, show up, and you get in, you get out. But I just wonder if something's possible like that in terms of when for example, if we file an application for citizenship, it used to be when you get it back, it would say processing time is, 10 months, 12 months, and that had no bearing in reality, as far as I could tell.
Yeah.
But if that did have a bearing in reality, and if you could check that on the website, and if maybe when you checked it, the website would say, okay, processing time remaining is 3 months, or if the processing time was passed, it gave you some sort of maybe a barcode like they give you with InfoPass, so you could submit that and then actually have a question submitted to CIS and get an answer from a person. Because a lot of people, I understand, will call before the time is due. But if you can create a system using the computer, maybe, so that lawyers and people just can have access to the computer could, submit a question and get an answer to it. I think just having the knowledge about where their case is and how long there is to wait is going to do a lot to sort of allay the problem of people, saying, well, I have no other choice. There's nothing else for me to do but file a mandamus. And so I just wonder if there's some type of system that could be put in place that would actually allow us to ask questions.
Right. Good question and good suggestion. I think that today, because of the nature, first of all, you'd have to break it down by district offices, because if you took a look at, we've gone on, I don't know if you've gone on our website, and we've tried to, particularly with the naturalization backlog, we're trying to communicate as well as we can about what the wait will be per, on average, per office. And if you went on there, for instance, in L.A., I think they're still at the 14-month mark. But if you're in Chicago, I think they're at the 9-month mark. So they're past July in Chicago. And so it would be not impossible, But today, I think it would be difficult for us to be able to individualize how long you would be waiting for that one individual case. We'd always have to modify that, say it in such a way that on average, applications in this office are being processed this long, because for instance, if that one person you had to request for evidence that followed up, or if there was a legitimate FBI concern, then that would be being worked out perhaps. But I think that you're right. We should be able to do that, and I think in a transformed system, that would be I think that should be one of our goals, and I'll make sure that the Transformation Office, which is right now headed up by Dan Renault, add that in. And if you'd like, we can get back to you on that as well and give you some thinking for the Transformation Office. But if you've got, give you a chance to express that to him as well, be happy to do that. So afterwards, you can see Debbie Rogers, who's also, by the way, my senior counselor. And one reason, well, there are many reasons why Debbie was a good choice for me as a senior counselor. One of them is that she heads our customer services and information branch, and that's made me much more aware of the importance of communicating with customers and with the public. And I think that's been a good relationship, and one that I hope is being seen with a better internet site and things like that, getting more information out earlier. But I think that's a great idea. We can't do it right now. It's something we should aspire to.
Okay, we're running out of time. I'm going to take one final question. Anna Sol?
Thank you very much. I'm Anna Sol Gutierrez. I'm a state delegate in Maryland, and even though I'm not a lawyer and I have no federal jurisdiction on immigration, probably the largest issues that I'd have to deal with is people with immigration problems. But I also wear another hat. I'm a systems engineer and worked for many years for a company 8 years ago that was reinventing your systems in immigration. So I'm kind of puzzled by announcing that you're now once again doing a transformation. But my question goes to this, and I will be blunt. You talked about the fee increase, a huge fee increase. Clearly you had a workload increase, but you also had a huge influx of money that apparently was not well planned for, and now you say that that money is going to be used for capital improvements. And you never once, until your last sentence, talked about the customer. Could you talk about any serious focus on the customer? Because if you've asked them to pay more fees, what is the benefit that that customer has? How is it that you understand that you're going to improve the services? And if the services are not improved, is there any way that they can get their money back, or at least a partial discount or refund?
Let me take the first part about the systems. I think there have been efforts in the past to transform discrete parts of the CIS. It was across the board.
It was big, and don't ever do something big. Always fail. We did IRS, and many more customers to do, and after 10 years, it's finally working in electronic thing.
Right.
Be careful.
Now you're right to counsel caution on all of this. We understand, and that's why we're looking at this program management office so carefully and trying to get outside people to come in and take a look at it. I do think that's wise counsel. FBI tried to do the same sort of thing that we did when they tried to transform their paper-based system, and after $130 million lost, they just stopped it, called timeout, took a breather, and they're now taking a look at it, and they're going towards taking another effort at it. We'd like to avoid that. But we still have, just to give you a sense of our antiquated systems, we still have IBM mainframes that are programmed on COBOL. The majority of the COBOL, that's why I never finished business school, is because they had a programming class, and you had all the cards that you had to go through. Yeah, and I just said, life's too short. I'll be a lawyer. But we still have those programs. As to the customer, I think the transformation program is designed to serve the customer. And I don't think that we'll ever get away from backlogs, for instance, if we don't go to an electronic system. It will just don't have the capacity to do the surge-type operations. And so although I may not have expressed that adequately when I did the presentation here, I should have, and that the transformation program is all about customers, and that we'll never have good services until we go to a electronic-based, modernized system. Just won't be able to handle surges or even the day-to-day operations until we get to that point. We'll always be scrambling at some point with some sort of a problem.
Okay. Please join me in wishing Mr. Scharfen well on all of our behalfs, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.